everyone, and welcome to my brand new channel, Balancing the Books. So my name is Victoria and I am a tax accountant, but one of my favorite things to do, and one of the things that keeps me most grounded, most centered, most happy is reading books. And I won't lie, my favorite genre is romantasy, anything fantasy in all honesty, even as a child, because reading is a wonderful way to escape. And so the book that I'm starting this channel out with is one of my absolute favorite books. I've been obsessed with the series since I first read it last year, and that is going to be Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. And so I want to talk through several of my theories, several popular theories and my thoughts on them, and just overall excitement because on Tuesday is the launch of Book 3, Onyx Storm, and I've had that book pre-ordered since the second it went live, and in all honesty, I'm probably going to drive an hour to the closest Target to get the special Target release. And I just really love these books, and so I thought that I would do my own channel talking about my thoughts, not just on these books, but on all the different books that I read. And so hopefully you guys will enjoy this channel. Hopefully you'll enjoy my thoughts, but I would really love it if in all my different videos you guys engage in the comments, let me know what you think. And if you enjoy hearing what I have to say, make sure to hit that red subscribe button down below, as well as the like video, as that will really help this brand new channel get off the ground. The very first part, if I end up breaking this up into parts, is going to be talking about my theories surrounding Violet as a character and Andarna as a character, and some of my thoughts regarding both of them, as well as some common theories that are out there that I either agree or don't agree with. My second part is going to be talking about some of the other characters in this book and the future that I think awaits them, as well as some of my theories. And then finally, the biggest point of conversation I think around Onyx Storm is what Violet's second signet is. And so I'm going to be talking all about my theories regarding signets in my third part of these videos. I do plan to have all three up on my channel, so make sure that you are subscribed and then go to the channel to watch part 2 and 3. I'll also link them down in the description once they're live and I'm able to do that. So let's jump into part 1, and I want to start out by talking about Violet. So Violet is one of the best female protagonists that I've seen written, because she is very much a 21-year-old girl in that there are elements of her character, the crush that she has on her childhood friend, the relationship that she develops with Xaden, her struggle with communication with various people, figuring out who she is as a person and dealing with war and with grief. It's just such a well-written character that I absolutely love her, so much that my puppy's middle name is actually Violet, and we call her Violence quite a lot because she's quite a destructive little thing, even though we love her very much. But there's several distinct things about Violet, specifically her physical appearance, and that being that she has silver hair, so she has long dark brown hair, but half of it's silver. No matter what length she cuts it at, half of that hair is silver. And then she is also very, very pale. And we know that her mother had a lot of sickness while carrying her, that sickness led to Violet being small, being weaker, and having that silver hair. Now, there is a strong theory, and I think that this is very likely, that this has something to do with Venin. Now, there have been quite a lot of people who have talked about either Violet's mom or Violet's dad being Venin. And I don't think that this is the case. At first, I kind of thought maybe it was her dad that was Venin, because of a quote that we get from Nolan where he talks about on how there is no cure, there's only control, despite all that they have done to look for a cure. Now, this would lead us to believe that either Lilith or her husband is Venin. But I think the fact that Violet was screaming because her mom's eyes were bloodshot is not enough of a clue that she was Venin. I think that she was a kid who was overreacting. Her dad, we have had zero evidence that her dad is Venom. What I think is a little bit more likely is that Lilith, being the fighter that she is and knowing about Venom, probably encountered a Venom. And I think that either this Venom tried to drain her, perhaps draining Violet, making Lilith weaker for a time, or perhaps Lilith was stabbed with a poison blade just like Violet was, and that poison, that venom poison, happened to be something that interacted with her. Either way, I think that the silver hair, based on what we have heard Rebecca Yarros say on how the silver hair will come up in future books, we will find out why that matters in future books. I think that the story around that will come out. I think that it's definitely related to Venom one way or another, but I don't think that either of her parents are Venom, even though they knew that Venom existed. Now, that being said, Lilith was sick. She probably did have some sort of a cure for that she had taken, some sort of medicine. And there are a couple of different theories around this. The overarching one being that it was the blood of a feathertail, because Violet's dad was known to research feathertails. Now, for those of us who have done research, you typically aren't going to be researching the same thing like that for 20 years. And this is very important, they were not at Basgiath near the Vale or at the archives for her dad to truly do that kind of research. And so not having access to the feathertails, not having access to the archives, it's very unlikely that he was researching feathertails at that time. I think that is something that he had been researching more towards the end of his life, and I'll get more into his research when I talk about him in my side characters video. I also do not believe that it was Andarna's blood. Andarna was still in the shell when Violet was born. She was out of the shell when Violet was around 18 years old. That being said, I do like the theory of there being some dragon blood with Violet, that Violet at some point was given dragon blood, because of the fact that Taryn says, I know who and what you are, Violet Sorengale, and that what could be saying, I know what kind of a person you are. But when you put that with Andarna, when she says, we are the same, that sort of makes me think, okay, maybe there's something to this theory. But then there's the fact that Violet talks to several dragons and doesn't get killed multiple times. And it is known that whenever you typically talk to a dragon that is not your dragon, you typically get killed. She talks to Coda after the first part of the battle at Basgiath, doesn't get killed. She talks to both Riddick and Sawyer's dragons. Again, during the battle at Basgiath, doesn't get killed. She sort of tells them, hey, I'm doing this, and they let her do it. Also, during threshing, way back in the first book, before she has bonded anybody, she talks to the green dragons that come up and sniff her when they smell her sister's dragon scales. And all of these instances, when you put it together, Rebecca Yarros is very big on Easter eggs, and so that would lead me to believe that there is some credence to the fact that Violet at some point has had dragon blood, and that is somehow a part of her. And now let's talk about Andarna, because this book, from the leak that we got from Apple on the chapter preview, we know that they are going in search of Andarna's family, because the leadership knows that Andarna is able to burn venom. She's the only dragon to do that, and that she is special, that she is a special 7th dragon. And so they want to know more about this breed. But there's several other things we know about Andarna that are very significant. First off, we know that she has a poison venom tail. And this is important because dragons get to choose their tail. Andarna knows that she was left behind in order to restore the wards, but she doesn't remember a lot about it because this happened over 600 years ago, 650 years ago. Her family left her behind as the lone dragon of her den in Navarre. Now, we don't know when dragons pick their tails. We don't know if dragons pick their tails when they're in the shell. We don't know if dragons pick the tail while they're in the dreamless sleep. But no matter what, Andarna chose that tail. And we know in modern medicine that venom is used to make antivenom, to make antidotes. And so that would lead us to believe that perhaps her tail is able to make an antidote. Maybe her tail is able to help make a cure. We also know from those first few chapters of Onyx Storm that she had a conversation with Violet where she was telling Violet that her magic felt different when she was shifting between her camouflage color on the rocks and her natural color when she roasted the venom, and that perhaps that's why her fire was different. Now, I think this is probably not exactly the case, and Violet thinks that as well. This is sort of Andarna's child reasoning through it. And I think there is something to be said with her magic being different. And I think that is going to be very important because Andarna is different. And so perhaps her magic is not just changing color, but changing her magic to suit what the needs are. And I'll get a little bit more into Andarna's magic and how I think that ties into Violet's second signet, even though we know that signets don't come from the dragons whenever I get to the signet section. But I also think that there is something else that is really important here about Andarna, and that is the fact that she is from somewhere else. One of the things that we know is that dragons had different ancestral hatching grounds. There are 6 areas in Nevers, there are 6 provinces, and we know that at least 2 of them have dragon dens. The ancestral hatching ground for the black dragons is at Orisha, and then the ancestral hatching ground for the green dragons is at Basgiath. That would lead me to believe that the other regions each have an ancestral hatching ground. Because there are 6 regions, that would mean that this 7th dragon is definitely not from Navarre. And we know that it's not going to be from Griffinland. And so therefore that leaves us with the Isle Kingdoms. And I believe that we are going to go to the Isle Kingdoms. And I think that there are going to be some interesting answers that we find out there that I'm going to discuss a little bit more in parts 2 and 3. The other thing to note though about the possibility of Andarna helping to bring about the cure for venom is that I do not believe that Xaden is going to be cured at the end of Onyx Storm, because this was such a huge shocker that to cure him in one book is asking a lot. I think that we will get closer, but I think we might see Xaden go more into a villain in book 3 and then possibly get that cure in book 4. And that's just a hunch based on the fact that there are 5 books in this series. So with that, I'm going to end this first part of the video here, and we're going to move over to part 2, which is talking all about some of my other theories for various characters in the series. So make sure to head over and watch that part next, or be subscribed so that you can go back and see it later.